The Vanishing Tide, a mystery of the Northern Highlands. Welcome, friends. Are you sitting comfortably? Let me tell you a tale, a strange and haunting story whispered through the winds of the Northern Highlands of Scotland. It is a tale of mystery, of love, and of the unknown forces that linger in the shadows of this ancient land. Close your eyes if you dare, and let your imagination take you to the rugged shores of Caithness, where the sea meets the sky in a restless embrace, and the whispers of the past echo through the dunes. The year was 1973, and the air was crisp with the first hints of autumn. September in the Highlands is a time of transition, when the long summer days begin to fade, and the nights grow darker, colder, and somehow more alive. The northern coast of Scotland, with its jagged cliffs and endless beaches, is a place of stark beauty and eerie isolation. It is a land steeped in legend, where the sea holds secrets older than time itself. It was here, on a remote stretch of beach, that a young couple had parked their caravan for a holiday. They were city folk, eager to escape the noise and bustle of their everyday lives. The man, Robert, was tall and broad-shouldered, with a quiet confidence about him. His wife, Margaret, was petite and lively, her laughter as bright as the sun that danced on the waves. Together, they had planned a week of peace and solitude, far from the world they knew. The beach was perfect, deserted, save for the occasional seabird wheeling overhead. The dunes rose like gentle hills behind them, and the sea stretched out endlessly before them, its surface shimmering in the fading light of day. They spent their first few hours exploring the shoreline, collecting smooth stones and shells, and marveling at the wild beauty of the place. As the sun dipped low on the horizon, they decided to visit the local pub, a small, weathered building nestled at the edge of a nearby village. The pub was warm and welcoming, its walls lined with old photographs and fishing nets. The locals greeted them with nods and smiles, and the couple soon found themselves enjoying hearty meals and a few pints of ale. The hours slipped by, and as the evening deepened, the couple decided to head back to their caravan. The path through the dunes was dimly lit by the moon, and the sound of the waves crashing against the shore was their only companion. They reached their caravan, the cool night air nipping at their cheeks. Inside, they settled down for the night, the gentle rocking of the wind lulling them to sleep. But their peace was short-lived. In the dead of night, Margaret was startled awake by a sharp, insistent knocking on the caravan door. She shook Robert awake, her voice trembling as she whispered, "Did you hear that?" Robert, groggy but alert, got up to investigate. "Stay here," he said, pulling on his jacket. Margaret watched as he opened the door and stepped out into the darkness. The door clicked shut behind him, and the sound of his footsteps faded into the night. She waited, her heart pounding, but no sound came. The knocking had stopped, and the only noise was the wind whistling through the dunes. Exhaustion overtook her, and she drifted back to sleep, convinced that Robert would return soon. When Margaret awoke the next morning, the sunlight streaming through the caravan windows, she immediately noticed that Robert was not beside her. The bed was cold, untouched. Panic set in as she called his name, her voice echoing in the empty caravan. She threw on her coat and stepped outside, scanning the beach for any sign of him. The tide had gone out, leaving behind a vast expanse of wet sand, but there was no trace of Robert. Desperate, she retraced their steps from the night before, walking along the beach and through the dunes. The pub was her last hope. She burst through the door, her face pale and her voice shaking as she asked the staff if they had seen her husband. The bartender, a kind-faced man with a thick Highland accent, shook his head. "We'll call the police," he said, his tone grave. "They'll organize a search party." The search lasted for days, then weeks. The police combed the beach, the dunes, and the surrounding countryside, but there was no sign of Robert. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. Margaret stayed in the area for as long as she could, clinging to the hope that he would be found. But as the weeks turned into months, and the months into a year, she was forced to return home, her heart heavy with grief and unanswered questions. Then, one cold morning, nearly a year to the day after Robert's disappearance, Margaret received a phone call. It was the police. "We've found him," the officer said, his voice cautious. "He's alive." Margaret's heart leapt, but the officer's next words sent a chill down her spine. "He was found on the beach early this morning. A walker saw him coming out of the water, but there's something strange. He doesn't remember anything." Margaret rushed back to the Highlands, her mind racing with a mix of relief and dread. When she arrived, she found Robert sitting in a small room at the police station. He looked the same as he had the night he disappeared, same clothes, same face, but his eyes were distant, as if he were looking through her rather than at her. "I don't know what happened," he said, his voice hollow. "I remember going outside, and then nothing. I woke up on the beach, and there were figures. People, I think, but not like us. They were around me, and then they were gone, back into the sea." The walker who had found Robert described the scene in hushed tones. "I saw him walking out of the water," he said. "There were shapes around him like shadows, but they weren't human. They disappeared as soon as I got close." Robert never regained his memory of that lost year, and the mystery of what happened to him remains unsolved. Some say he was taken by the Selkies, the mythical seal people of Scottish folklore, who are said to lure humans into the sea. Others believe it was something older, something darker, that claimed him that night. To this day, the beach where Robert disappeared is avoided by locals after dark. They say the wind carries whispers, and the waves seem to watch, waiting for their next visitor. So, if you ever find yourself in the Northern Highlands, remember this tale and tread carefully. The sea holds its secrets tightly, and some mysteries are better left undisturbed.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more.